What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props, where I go over all of my betting action for this weekend's UFC card, which is UFC Singapore. We have Max Holloway versus Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, at featherweight for potentially 5 rounds of action. An amazing fight night main event overseas. Early start time for us here in the U.S., but for the international subscribers of mine, congratulations on a probably more convenient fight time for your viewing experience this weekend. For this fight card, I do have 4 money lines, 1 underdog, 1 even money play, and 2 favorites. And I do have, I think, 5 total props as well. The majority of those props pertain to the main event itself with Holloway and the Korean Zombie. So, gonna go over all of that. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Be sure to check out my full card breakdown or the live stream I did with Johnny K. Picks the other night for details on all of the 13 fights, all 26 fighters. In this video, I will try to keep it concise and just talk about the betting action and some recommended plays and ways to make money on this card. So, starting off the prelims, I have money on the underdog in the first fight of the night. Yarno Aarons, I'm taking at 0.75 units. At plus 180, I got him at on BetOnline, I think it was Monday morning of this week. The money line has since come down a bit. I think it's around plus 135 or plus 140 for Yarno Aarons over Sung Woo Choi, who I do agree that Sung Woo Choi should be a slight favorite, but at plus 180, I had to take a stab on him. I think the money line was far too wide. I'm banking on the potential of the Dutch kickboxer, Yarno Aarons, who does have some pretty good submission skills on the mat as well. And he did drop his debut. He lost a decision to William Gomez back at the UFC Paris card last year, but he's taking on Sung Woo Choi, who is riding a 3-fight losing streak, getting knocked down, I think, about 4 times in his last 2 performances. And I think Yarno Aarons, with that sharp right cross he has, can snipe off the chin of Sung Woo Choi as Choi enters range aggressively, trying to headhunt with that big left hook, which is Sung Woo Choi's signature strike. So it's a spot here where I just find a lot of defensive holes in the game of Sung Woo Choi. I think Yarno Aarons is skilled enough to capitalize on those. And if it does go to the mat, I think Aarons is prepared there as well. So as opposed to the money lines, I do like the unders in this spot. The under 2.5 at minus 120. I think in the first prelim of the night with the Singapore crowd, they will put on a show, and it will be a battle between 2 strikers at close range. And I think Yarno Aarons comes out the underdog victor. So, like I said, just 0.75 units, not even a full unit, at plus 180 on Yarno Aarons. The next fighter I'm taking is at welterweight. I'm taking Yusaku Kinoshita to defeat Billy Goff. I have 1.26 units at minus 126, the money line of Kinoshita, who is a southpaw Japanese counter striker, and he's a guy who impressed on his Dana White Contender Series appearance last year, scoring a round 3 knockout over a much bigger opponent than him. But he did drop the ball in his debut against Adam Fugit. And I took Adam Fugit earlier this year, I think it was in February or so, just because the money line was pretty wide. They made Kinoshita far too big of a favorite in his debut spot against a very capable, well-rounded Adam Fugit, who grounded Kinoshita and ground and pounded him out in round 1. But that was a humbling experience for the, I think at that point, undefeated Yusaku Kinoshita. He does have 1 loss on his record that's a DQ, but he was winning that fight. So really at 22 years old, a guy who was steamrolling his competition with a 100% finish rate. A lot of times those fighters don't have successful debuts in the UFC, but he comes back. He's been training at Killcliff FC, a very good camp down south, and I think he will find an early KO on Billy Goff. Billy Goff is making his debut after successfully earning a comeback round 1 knockout victory last year on the Contender Series over Smitrowski. And Billy Goff really does that. I mean, he's always making a comeback effort after getting hurt early in the fight, early in the round. Even against lower-level competition, this guy's striking defense is not very good. But I gotta say, Billy Goff probably is the more well-rounded fighter on paper in this matchup. I've seen him, shoot takedowns. I've seen him grind guys out as the fight wears on with ground and pound, looking for submissions on the mat. And his striking is somewhat powerful, but he isn't really knocking guys out cold. Kinoshita is a guy who's really putting the hands on people and has got the devastating power advantage here. Billy Goff, it's a lot of just wearing guys down with his grinding pace, and it's like standing TKO stoppages, including the one on the Contender Series last year. So power advantage, speed advantage goes to Kinoshita. I think he's going to have the counter-striking ability to find the chin of Billy Goff, which is not a hard chin to find. And furthermore, Billy Goff is coming back after having 2 knee surgeries earlier this year in February. So he makes his debut coming off of some serious procedures done. It's just a tough spot for him, especially traveling overseas as well. So give me Yusaku Kinoshita. Another fight where I think the unders are incredibly live, but I think it is Kinoshita with the early knockout here. Moving along to the middleweight division, I'm taking a stab on the money line of Chidi Njokuani to defeat Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. This is a 1.05 unit stab at minus 105. The slight even money, slight underdog, Chidi Njokuani. This is a kickboxer in Njokuani taking on a more of an aggressive boxer in the Polish Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Both guys are pretty good finishers as pros so far. Chidi's going to have just a big size advantage here. I think he does have a technical striking advantage and just more weapons. As a kickboxer, he's got all of those front kicks to all targets, leg kicks, high kicks, and he does have sharp elbows and short-range weapons with his hands as well. So a lot of the clinch advantage I give to Chidi Njokuani. Just a lot more ways to have output in this matchup to win a potential decision, but more likely even score a knockout just with his wide array of striking diversity. So, I would say Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is maybe a slight bit more predictable in his efforts. I mean, win or lose, this guy does march forward, let the combinations fly with his boxing, and he's got a very good pace to his game. Chidi Njokuani can sometimes fall flat as a counter striker and be low output, but that was in his last fight against a wrestler in Albert Duraev. And I think that was kind of the stylistic way that his kickboxing output was suppressed there, just with that threat of the takedown of Duraev. But I'll give him a pass on that one. Now it's a striking battle. I think he is going to know he's got a big advantage in this realm against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Not to mention most of Mikhail Oleksiejczuk's wins are over low-level opposition, and they usually come under 1.5 rounds. Whereas I could see Chidi, carrying on a good striking pace over the course of 3 rounds here. So give me Chidi Njokuani to get the job done. Again, just a small money line stab at minus 105, just enough to win 1 unit back in return. And the fourth and final money line is in the featherweight division further up the main card. I am taking Giga Chikadze to defeat Alex Caceres, a.k.a. Bruce Leroy, one of my favorite fighters. So unfortunately, I have to go against him here with my money. But Giga Chikadze, just a high-level kickboxer, switches stances well, insane power to all targets with his kicks, and he even has a boxing advantage with the hands over Alex Caceres, who's largely like a point-fighting kickboxer. But Alex Caceres does bring a wealth of experience, like 12 years in the UFC at this point, and he does have a slick BJJ game as well. An advantage there goes to Bruce Leroy. But I am taking 2.3 units of investment on Giga at minus 230 on BetOnline, and I'm taking him to win just 1 unit in return. And it's a long layoff that Giga Chikadze is coming back from. A little over 1.5 years since he suffered a defeat over 5 rounds in the headlined bout against Calvin Kattar. So, again, a big step down in competition from Calvin Kattar. A big win by TKO in round 3 over Edson Barbosa before that Giga Chikadze has. So now he's taking on a guy in Alex Caceres who has no real power threat, and a guy who I think Giga Chikadze has a much bigger striking advantage over in a lot of aspects here. So as long as Giga can stay on his feet, and the long layoff for Giga Chikadze was not because of some injury or something. It was because he had 3 separate opponents that all pulled out of their bouts with him. So he's been left without a dance partner. That ends this Saturday. I think he does get his hand raised. And I wouldn't be surprised if Giga Chikadze wins inside the distance here. Maybe even the unders would be a decent play. I think it's plus money, and that would cover the Alex Caceres, jumping on the back of Giga and getting the rear naked choke. There's a potential for that. I think that's most likely the path for Bruce Leroy. If you take the under at plus money, you cover that. You cover Giga getting the knockout. You see the body strikes that Giga's ended fights with. I think that's all in play against Alex Caceres. So give me Giga Chikadze to win. I think it's likely inside the distance, but I'm just taking his money line to win 1 unit in return. Moving on to the props of this card, I do have 5 of them, and they are all basically time props. The first one at the women's flyweight division between J.J. Aldrich and Na Liang. This is the under 2.5 at minus 185. For the price tag, I put 1 unit on that to win just over half a unit back in return. And it's because of Na Liang, really. She has no cardio, and she's just not a UFC caliber fighter. She's 0-2 in the UFC. Her one game plan is to bum rush her opponent early, look to take the fight to the mat, and look for an early submission. And if she can't accomplish that, she gasses out pretty badly. So Not a whole lot of striking defense, not a whole lot of durability, not a whole lot of talent at all coming from the Na Liang side, in my opinion. She got finished in early round 2 by Ariane Carnelossi, pretty much an exhaustion TKO loss, and she got knocked out by like 2 punches from Silvana Gomez Juarez about a minute into round 1 last year. So she is moving up to 125, but I don't think that's going to do her cardio any favors in this matchup. JJ Aldrich is not finishing anybody at the UFC level, but I think Na Liang will force her hand, or Na Liang gets the miraculous finish in round 1 by submission that she is always looking for. So either of those would cash the under. I think it is JJ Aldrich that gets her hand raised. So if you can find any prop for JJ inside the distance, maybe even that mythical JJ Aldrich by submission, once Na Liang is tired enough, I think, JJ can end this fight however she wants. That would be the first submission win for JJ, but I've got a feeling that could happen like in an early round 2 stoppage victory. So just taking the under, not getting greedy this time, but interesting ways to play this fight and try to find some additional plus money, because you're not going to get a chance to fade a fighter as bad as Na Liang for a long, long time. Moving on to the next prop, which is at the light heavyweight division, I'm taking the co-main event to go under 1.5 rounds at -170. I have just 1 unit on that because Anthony Smith and Ryan Spann are rematching, and this fight took place not but 2 years ago between these two men, where Anthony Smith got a round 1 club and sub victory by rear naked choke over Ryan Spann. Countered his reckless striking early, and Anthony Smith was able to take the fight to the mat, flatten out Ryan Spann, and submit him pretty easily. And the last 3 wins for Anthony Smith have all finished in 1 round, and Ryan Spann has a lot of fights that go only 1 round as well. In fact, his last 6 fights straight. So the past 3 years, Ryan Spann has not left round 1, win or lose. He's gone 3-3 in those results, all of them ending before round 1 is over. So if you want to go even further than that, I mean, these guys just are total finishers in general, win or lose. 48 of the 54 fights of Anthony Smith's long career have come before the scorecards. As with Ryan Spann, 24 of his, I think 29 fights, if I'm not mistaken, have ended before the scorecards. So a lot of these fights are not seeing even round 2 between these two men recently. I think this is no different. No matter who wins, I think it comes before 7.5 minutes. So the under 1.5 at -170, put just 1 unit on that. Okay, the remaining 3 props all deal with the main event between Max Holloway and the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung. At featherweight, they all basically point towards this going pretty deep into championship rounds, if not to decision, and they all point to Max Holloway as the winner, basically, which is how I see this fight going. The guy's a -800 favorite and one of the best featherweights of all time. He's a volume striker, and I think this does go over 2.5 rounds, which I got at -225. That's still out there, I think, on Bovada, BetMGM. The over 2.5 rounds at -225, I put 2 units on this one to win just under 1 unit in return. I'm also taking the Holloway 4-5 or by decision prop, which I took at -130. I am seeing on FanDuel and I think on Bovada, this is at -115. So you can get a slightly better price than I got, but I put 1 unit on that as well. And I took the very bold prop of the Holloway by decision at +165. I put 1 unit on that. You can get this at +170 on FanDuel at this point. So basically it's cascaded where the further this goes, the more money I could potentially make. But if this ends under 2.5 rounds for some reason, if the Korean zombie gets a flash KO or Max Holloway, starts breaking that trend and is more of a power puncher on Saturday night, I would lose 4 units on all of these 3 props. But if it goes over 2.5 rounds into championship rounds, I'll profit. If it goes all the way to decision, the full 25 minutes, which, by the way, the last 8 straight fights for Max Holloway have gone 25 minutes, and the last 14 have gone over 2.5. So we're looking in pretty good shape as far as the Holloway side. It just depends if the Korean zombie can keep up his toughness for that long. If the referee doesn't mercy stop this, if it gets too uncompetitive, I would cash out pretty big if this goes all 25 minutes. So that's the way I'm doing it. The over 2.5, the 4-5 decision for Holloway, and the Holloway by decision. So that is all of my betting action for this card. I've somehow nickel and dimed myself between all of these money lines and props up to about 11 units of investment that I'll be sweating out on Saturday morning. But I did stumble across a same-game parlay on DraftKings that I do like, and I was looking at ways to play Anthony Smith here. I like him as an underdog. I like him by submission, specifically the way he won the fight the first time. Smith by sub is at plus 420 on FanDuel. Him to win within 1 or 2 rounds and get the submission is at plus 500 on the same sports book. But I went a step further and got a plus 10,000 same-game parlay going in the co-main event on DraftKings. So what I did was I took Smith on his money line. He's an underdog. I took him to win by submission. I took 1+ knockdowns in round 1, and I took the under 299.5 second time prop, which would mean it happens all in round 1. This took place 2 years ago and the first time these guys fought. So Anthony Smith countered the reckless advances of Ryan Spann, knocked him down twice in round 1, and got the submission. So all of those boxes were checked, and it would have cashed this plus 10,000 same-game parlay that night 2 years ago. So if history repeats itself, all of those boxes get checked, we could cash that bet and turn $10 into $1,000 if, just get a simple club and sub in round 1 on the part of Anthony Smith. If you want to cut that down to just be a little bit safer, just take out that under 299 second prop, make it be at any point in the fight, and that'll still be plus 7,000. So there's some ways to play the club and sub sequence here on the same game parlays, and those usually pay out pretty big. So check that one out. I'll definitely be sprinkling $10 on that plus 10,000 play. But hit me in the comments with the ways that you plan on making money. If you agree with my picks, disagree with them, let me know why in the comments. I would love to hear it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Good luck in all of your betting action. Cheers.